Well, I think the first thing you see is obviously, like you said, is their body language.
Yeah.
I think the next thing that I ask is, how can I help? How can I serve you? You know, getting to that point where it's like hands are open, you know, like, and try to be in a vulnerable state where that individual will open up to you.
That's
and
huge.
sometimes that person may not open up immediately, and it's not about being pushy, but it's just about being there for that person, and showing up and allowing them to know that, hey, I really value you and I value what you're going through. I don't know what you're going through, but I'm here to help if need be.
Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hey, it's just another week in the 10,000 Miles studio here, but it's a special one. Today we have with us a very special guest, somebody I got to watch for 18 years through his high school career and then into college and through that and back into leading programs, football programs here in Southlake Carroll, and now moving on to SMU. Today's guest is Coach Riley Dodge. Riley, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Vic, for having me.
You are welcome. I'm going to let you introduce yourself but first I got a little thing prepped here. You know, if you grew up watching high school football, I'd say through the early 2000s and even on, and that's kind of when I really got bitten by the bug of high school football. Growing up in the Northeast, it wasn't as big as it is in Central South. If you know high school football and you've been watching it for the last 15, 20 years, you likely know the name Dodge through his dad, Todd, who's a legendary coach and been through the system, and through Riley's performance as a player and then on as a coach, et cetera. But that's really only the first chapter, the playing piece. You know, you came back to lead the Southlake program and you built one of the most consistent winning programs in the state. Over 100 wins, multiple championships, 2 trips to the state title game. But this episode's not about trophies. All right. So I have watched this guy on the sidelines be cool under pressure, lead people cool under pressure. I've been a part of something here called the Touchdown Club, where, Riley, you really touched me when you were really focused on statistics about how many kids don't make it from high school to college and then from college to the NFL, and what are they going to get from the game of football. That is so meaningful to me. I'm a huge fan of leadership. I've read dozens and dozens of books on it. I led large groups, 1,200, 1,300 people at a time working in corporate America. That's where we're going to go today. But do me a favor so I can do you justice, or actually let you do yourself justice. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Vic. Riley Dodge. I'm born and raised in the state of Texas, the great state of Texas. I'm a high school coach's kid. And that's all I've ever known. And so, and early in my life, we just kind of bounced around the state of Texas. And then in 2000, we wound up in Southlake, Texas, when it turned into an amazing journey. My dad was the head football coach at Southlake Carroll. Got to grow up on the sidelines as the ball boy, and then finally got my chance as a starting quarterback at Southlake Carroll. And so the different challenges, the expectations in playing quarterback in this town are challenging, but gosh, so rewarding as well. Yeah. The different people you get to connect with at a young age. And I knew at a young age that my calling was to be a coach.
You did?
Yes. And so I knew just watching my dad and watching his staffs, but yes, the X's and O's part of it, the things that are done on the grass are obviously a part of it. And that's what I do enjoy, but just watching the impact you can have on young men and, being a part of the village with the family is really key to me, really crucial to me. And so I got to learn that at a young age. And after I got done playing high school ball, I went to the joke in our family is I'm probably the only one. It's kind of a party joke, but I'm the only guy to ever decommit from the University of Texas and then commit to the University of North Texas.
Okay. I remember that, actually.
So I was committed to the University of Texas for a long time with Matt Brown, and then I went to go play for my dad at the University of North Texas. Learned a lot. We had a lot of adversity in high school. I think people think that we didn't go through adversity when I was a player. We did. We found a way to get out the right side of things more times than none. And then college, just battle through injuries, but learned a lot about myself and who I wanted to be on and off the field and how people were going to follow me when things weren't going great. Then I decided to finish my career at McNeese State University in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and then I hopped into college football right after that. I was at Texas A&M with Kevin Sumlin, Cliff Kingsbury, Johnny Manziel for a little bit, and then I went to University of Texas with Matt Brown and Charlie Strong. And I hopped into high school coaching and back into the Metroplex. I was at Flower Mound Marcus as the offense coordinator for Jerry Stanford, and then got the head coaching job at 29 years old at Southlake Carroll, and got my dream job. And back in my hometown, my wife, Alexis, is also from Southlake, Texas. And to raise our kids in this community that we grew up in was just couldn't
it's a big
draw
deal.
it up any better. Yeah, no doubt. So
I got some goosebumps. I got some goosebumps, actually, when you talk about what it's like to raise kids in this community.
Yeah.
Every visitor that I have from family and friends that comes here, they get it within like 6 hours of the first visit, driving around, seeing people out, the cordial way people greet one another, seeing neighbors, friends, the engagement family has in the community. It's like nothing I've ever experienced in my life. Now, I'm sure there are many other places in the country that have that. We are one of those special places for sure, near and dear to my heart. I want to bring you back a little bit because you've moved into SMU. We're going to come back here, but you grew up in a football family. Your dad was, taking you about. You were you were a coach's kid, as you just said. What was that like? What was it like living inside the football culture? Take us for a few minutes through that. What were the weeks like, the weekends like? What kind of conversations did you have at the dinner table? My parents were in the insurance business. So I heard about underwriting and claims and things like this. You were probably hearing about X's and O's and what the opposition was doing next week, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, sometimes I wish I got the financial piece because now I'm dealing with that as I get older. So thank goodness I married an accountant. So no, it's I couldn't dreamed of a better childhood. My mom's dad, Ebby Neptune, was a longtime athletic director at Austin Westlake.
Okay.
And so I got it from both sides of the family.
Wow.
And just grew up in a family of educators and coaches. I grew up in the Phil house. And so my heroes were my dad's football players.
Wow.
From McKinney, Texas to Rockwall, Texas to Cameron, Texas, and a small school in Central Texas, to just the different stops, and obviously Southlake Carroll. But to be a fly on the wall, to learn the game from a young age, and really just I felt like the field house was my playground. I'm
So
sure
cool.
I bugged the crap out of a lot of guys over the years, but I just wanted to be around them. And my heroes were my dad's quarterbacks. Not necessarily Troy Aikman or Brett Favre, but I wanted to be those guys. But also to learn not just from my dad, but to learn from the amazing men that he had on his staffs and the relationships I was able to build over the years and stay connected with those guys has really made me to who I am today.
There's a funny story that comes to that. Might have been either my 50th or my 60th birthday party. I know, relax. You can't believe I'm 60. I'm a handsome looking devil. It was my 50th birthday party, actually. And my brother got up to say a few words. And my wife threw it at the Stoneleigh here in Dallas. But my brother got up to say a few words. And he was proud of me. He was proud of the things I'd accomplished in life. But he said, I was 5 years older than him. And he was always determined to hang around with the big kids. And he was learning and he was competing and I used to go to my brother's baseball games. My dad was the coach of the baseball team and it was loose in Brooklyn. It wasn't like, travel or select ball or anything. And his team would always forfeit because somebody wasn't showing up. And the team might have had 11 kids. The odds of not having a full roster for that game were pretty high. But I showed up because the coaches would be like, well, we're not just going home. We'll scrimmage. We're going to play. Forfeit. You get the W, but we're going to scrimmage. I was there. All right. So that meant I got to play in, but all of that turned into, pardon me. Now I see where you started getting this competitive, not only edge, but appetite very early on. You were surrounded by it. You were surrounded by this great influence, and it takes a special character to want to absorb it rather than, shun it. So you seems like you were absorbing it early on, really, really early on.
Yeah, I think my dad gave me it's the head coach or coach dad balance.
Yeah.
That I think he did an amazing job of throughout the years. But my dad, I remember when we moved to Southlake, maybe not necessarily like right when we moved there, but I think as I got into middle school, it's a one school town. Southlake loves its football.
Yeah.
Every elementary school is a dragon. There's one logo in town, but the town surrounds around what's going on Friday nights. And that's a special thing about Southlake, Texas. But to get to my point, my dad told me, he goes, Riley, if you want to play quarterback here, being the coach's kid, you've got to be the hardest worker in the building each and every day. It can't be on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's got to be every day. It's got to be 7 days a week. But what I also found out through that is he wasn't just talking about the field house, my locker room, which was important. He was also talking about the community.
Yeah.
And this community, but the community had to feel me. And I think too, I was under a microscope a little bit at a young age because the two guys prior to me, and Chase Daniel and Greg McElroy, were the state high school players of the year. And I came in after both of those guys who are dear friends of mine, who I learned a lot from. But I also knew if I got my opportunity, that there was not a shadow of doubt in our field house or in the community, who the hardest worker in the program was. And then, and I had to be about it each and every day. And I think that is really benefited me in my coaching career, but as a husband, as a father, that I'm not going to be perfect, but you're going to get my best in whatever I do.
That translates so much into sort of my line of business, having come from corporate America, and maybe not so much for family. Well, that's not true. I did hire a brother-in-law, but when my son worked for me part-time, but differently, when I used to travel a bit, and I moved from some company to company. I was a CIO of 5 companies. And when you sit that's sort of like the coach of the IT team, right? If I would go from one company to the next, I'd have a bunch of my team I'd like to take along with me, because no one succeeds alone. You've got a success formula. You've got key people around you. You lead these people. You just continue to inspire them to do great things, and you clear the path for them so they can go do those great things. But as I brought people in that worked for me prior, they got the same speech your dad gave you. Hey man, you're going to have to show up every single day. You think you're ahead because we've worked together. You're behind. Every eyeball is on you. They think you got this job because I like you. They think we're buddies and friends, and we vacation together. And some of those things may or may not be true, but you have to outwork, outcommit everybody on the field. And they did. And they did. And they understood that and respected it. And that lesson is very important. It's from football, but into life. These things, if you're there because of the benefit of access, you better put the grit in. You better really go earn it. Otherwise, it'll flip on you and it'll turn very, very quickly and make it uncomfortable for everybody. Imagine the position your dad would have been in if you were the Monday, Thursday, next Tuesday guy, right? That wouldn't have went well for him.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you'd have been benched pretty quickly.
No, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
There's
He
no
was
doubt.
very serious.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's about results and winning, and but there's winning's there's a byproduct of that, right? It's hard work and showing up. But I think that was fire in me and in my belly each and every day. Like I had a chip on my shoulder to go prove myself, and I have a competitive spirit about me. But you're absolutely right. I mean, it created a little bit different sense of urgency for me, but that's also carried over to a lot of different areas.
It's a gift. I want to transition to a little bit about the pressure in high school. For the audience here, I took a job in 2006 right here in Texas. My office was up in Louisville. Family moved along here in 2007. We intentionally put the kids in school in April. We had moved before and waited for the school year to end at the end of the year. Then they sat around not knowing anybody all summer long and went, we have a fix for that. We're going to move with 2 months left of school. Not enough to materially change grades. They're going to meet a ton of people. We're going to get nested into the community a little bit, and we're going to sort of get a little jump started. And that worked well. Comes, July, August, I start hearing about the football program. Oh, you got to check out this. I drive by the stadium. This is before the wings were added on, and these grass pits used to be on the side. And a buddy of mine brings me to my very first game. It was in August. And that particular night, I'm standing on the locker room side in the grass area because he had kids with him. I had come by myself with him, and, all right, Southlake's got a 47-yard field goal attempt. And I'm like, I got my hands in the air like, what, are they kidding me? It's high school. They're going to try to kick a 47-yard field goal. It's up and it's good. What? Completely blown away. I forget who the kicker was. It was September of 2007. You probably know better than I.
Cade Foster.
It was Cade, wasn't it? Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's right. He did it at least 2 times at night, like a 47 and a 48.
Yeah.
And I just like, okay, I'm in a different place right now. But shortly after that, Riley, in September, somebody hands me a D magazine, knowing that I just moved to Southlake. And there you are on the cover, flanked by 2 young ladies. One's like the class president. The other one's like the head cheerleader. And you got your Letterman jacket on. I can't remember if you had a football in your hand or not. I'll pop the picture up during this so people could see it. And I'm paraphrasing, but the line underneath it said something like, they're better looking than you, they're smarter than you, they make more money than you, and they prove it every single Friday night. Something crazy like that. And I'm like, wow, not only is that epic, but what pressure. I mean, that had to sort of be like, I know you worked hard to sort of get recognized. You had national attention as a teenager. Mm-hmm. But now here you are, you started to get a little Hollywood status, right? We see a lot of players get sucked into the Hollywood status sort of thing and really not do well with it. Mm-hmm. What was that like for you? How did, I'm sure being a coach's son, he kept you in line, but like, how did you manage the national attention as a teenager?
Yeah, kind of going back to my dad, obviously was my head coach, and he definitely had a way to humble me, right, in the rest of our locker room. And we always did an amazing job, even before, when I was younger, to getting to watch it from afar, and then, pretty close, I guess. But when I was a player, my dad and our coaching staff did an unbelievable job of like trying to keep the main thing. It was worry about the guys in the locker room, worry about the people that are in this field house. And we always talk about, hey, we're going to put like a steel cage around the field house. We're going to protect from all the outside noise. And thank goodness we didn't have social media back then like we do now. But there was obviously a lot of pressure, but man, we loved the pressure. We loved the bright lights. I think that's when we showed up and played our best. But it's the same thing I talk to my kids at Carroll about. We love the target. We love the target on our back. And our job is to go outwork people Monday through Thursday, and then on Friday is recess time for us, and we take the target off our back and put it on people's chests and go attack.
Nice.
And we have our kids are about it, and I think when people are playing against our youth programs and they have a dragon logo on the side of their helmet, you're going to get the very best out of your opponent each and every week. And so we knew that. And I think with the different attention that we got, obviously that had a lot to do with a lot of people. We had some great teammates, played with some unbelievable players, some great coaches, but the community really supported us. The D magazine deal, the funny story about that is we were just sent, me and these 2 young ladies, we were just sent to Dallas to go do like a photo shoot. We had no idea what it was about.
You didn't know it was for the magazine?
No, my dad, my dad, okay. I think D magazine reached out to my dad or the school district and was like, hey, we need Riley and 2 others and to be on the cover of the magazine. And wow. We're going to do a piece on Southlake, Texas, and Southlake Carroll football. And then when it comes out, and then it's me on the front cover, and then the title of it brought some attention for sure. And so that was another little added extra target on our back, I guess you could say. And we had to embrace that a little bit.
I popped up the cover, and like I said, I'll pop it in post-production. The title under you says, you're not holding a football, by the way, you're just, cross-armed, and it says, why you should hate Southlake, because the kids are smarter, stronger, and better looking than yours, and they prove it every Friday night. I mean, that's pretty bold and that's pretty crazy. And I'm like, that's a ton of pressure to manage. You know, the pressure and the reason I like this topic, and we're going to get into sort of how the mental toughness was really formed beyond just your dad's influence. I went to the Rice A&M game when Manziel had to sit out the first half because of the signing stuff, right?
Yep.
And heading into that game, I was with a friend who was an Aggie, diehard, obviously they all are, pardon me. And like, okay, it's going to be cool. I got to be honest with you, at the time, I might have been the only guy in Texas that wasn't a giant Johnny Manziel fan because I didn't think he had the best. He wasn't put together like a Manning or like a Brady or somebody with all this poise. And I just thought he was a little out there and doing things that would potentially harm his career. So first half goes by, Aggies are up. Kickoff, he's able to come back in the game, and A&M's receiving. They receive, boom, 20, 25-yard line, forget what it was, and the offense comes out on the field, and he comes out jogging on, and the entire stadium erupts. I don't know how many people, 875, 80,000 people at that stadium. The place was shaking. And the light bulb went on for me, and I went, I like the guy now because I'm gonna get in his corner because what 19-year-old could handle this? That's an incredible amount of pressure, adulation, responsibility, and not guided as you were as a young man. Man, could have gone off the wheels easily. And maybe, I don't know his dad or his family situation, but I would have to guess that his guardrails were a little wider than they should have been during the time he was in the midst of all that stuff. And so back to you, you were labeled the next great quarterback, living with comparisons. This I have to believe is where your mental toughness was really formed. Like when these things came up, whether it be, a cover, a big win against a rival, injuries, how did you deal with it? What was your mindset around moving through that stuff?
Yeah, I think I, learned a lot about myself through the years, my high school years, and obviously going into college. I think I remember my junior year in high school. We had a great team. We ended up winning a state championship that year. I got a second round playoffs. We played Euless Trinity in an epic classic at Old Cowboy Stadium at Texas Stadium, and in front of I'd argue with anybody, but there was 60,000 there at that game, and it was an incredible atmosphere. But got a concussion late in that game, pretty good one, and then ended up playing the next week, and then had a bad sprained ankle, broke some ribs, and the following week. So, and then we found a way to go win a state championship. But I learned a lot about myself through that time. Like, hey, there's a lot of people that are counting on you. And if we're going to get the job done, you got to be a part of it. I was a part of it. I wasn't it, and I realized that, that I had some unbelievable teammates. We won a state championship together, not I. Yeah. And I think you learn a lot, like especially these amazing companies, these organizations that are sustained with consistency, and that's been Southlake Carroll as well, is there's no one that's bigger than the program.
Yeah.
And I always realized that, and that was preached to us at a young age, but that really stuck with me. Like, you're a part of it, but I knew if I didn't show up and for my teammates and found a way to get on the field, it might not go our way because I was a part of it. And I think I learned that through college. I was a highly recruited guy. I ended up going to play for my dad at University of North Texas. The 18-year-old in me wanted to go help Pops out and turn a program around. Man, we had some great things happen. Man, it was a roller coaster of emotions, but I learned a lot about myself, through the process. I think a lot in my early years that I put football on a pedestal. And it was like my identity. Like, I identified with being the starting quarterback wherever I was at. And I thought that was my worth. And through adversity in college, where we didn't win a lot of football games, I did battle injuries. The problem with me as a player, I thought I was 6'4", 220, which I'm not. you know,
We all do,
um,
buddy. We
I'm
all do.
I'm 5'11" on a good day, and I played. I fluctuated probably between 195 and about 202 in college, and but my asset was I was a runner, and I could really run, and you better be able to run a little bit if you're my size, but I got myself in some injury issues because I thought it was Derrick Henry playing quarterback.
Yeah.
But I think just through just the different life lessons I learned in North Texas and even at McNeese State, it's molded me into the coach I am today. But just the different things that have gone my way and not gone my way is my testimony. And I'm able to share that with my players, and I'm super transparent with them, and I want them to learn from the things that I feel like I did really well and things that I feel like I missed on at their age, and so they don't make the same mistakes.
Yeah. I'm guilty around the house and in my social circles of being often too optimistic. And as you get older, you realize sometimes you got to let people be disappointed. It's okay to be disappointed a little bit. I quickly want to turn lemons into lemonade, like very, very quickly. It's in my nature. I don't deal with long-term disappointment. I'm like, okay, that happened. Okay. What do we got to do next? Right. That's it. And so this is all part of that resiliency and the mental toughness. Much like anything, whether you're an athlete, whether it's football, baseball, golf, or you're in technology, or you're a developer or a project manager, or you're a business leader, the basic skills are being able to show up and perform the job at a very high level if you want to be considered a very high level athlete. And it's interesting, in corporate America, a lot of athletics and rock star terms are used. Oh, that person's a rock star, or they're an athlete, right? All of these terms come into corporate America because people can really identify with that elite level. What is it like to coach somebody and mentor them through and beyond their elite play and gaining that mental toughness and the mindset and the managing of disappointment? Has that been something that you've clearly been getting it your whole life from dad, but I won't ask more. Like, how do you do that? How do you do that in the locker room, on the field, on the practice field? How's that work in football?
Yeah, I think it's probably with anything, football, or like you said, in corporate world, or in your family. If a kid truly feels like you love them and care about them, and you really dive into who they are as a person, and they feel that you are truly trying to invest in that relationship, they'll go an extra mile for you, and they'll really let you in. And they'll be vulnerable with you when there are tough moments. And I think that's probably the most rewarding thing about being a coach, is helping a young man through great times and helping them through and trying to navigate adversity. Right. And I think that's a special thing about playing quarterback. I've always been a quarterback guy. I've still coached the quarterbacks at Southlake Carroll. I think because that's kind of we're the straw that stirs the drink. The guy that touches the ball 100% of the time has got to have a little bit of something about him on and off the field. He's got to be able to connect with the locker room. He's got to be able to connect with the coaching staff. He's got to connect with the community, from the high school level to the college level to the NFL. And I've really enjoyed that process with quarterbacks, and I've learned from some amazing ones. Obviously, my dad, Sean Watson, University of Texas, Major Applewhite, Cliff Kingsbury. So I've taken a little bit of everything, a little bit of all these amazing guys.
Yeah.
Now Rhett Lashley, who I work with at SMU, and there's a reason I, decided to make a jump, because I want to be around great people. I also feel like at 37 years old, like I'm not even close to where I'm going to be, as a coach, as a father, as a husband, and I want to be around great people. But to kind of back up a little bit, is it goes through like when we do quarterback school. And the first thing we do in quarterback school, I would say the first week and a half, we don't talk X's and O's. We don't talk about how to throw the ball. We don't talk scheme. It is about all the intangibles of being a great quarterback. But if you look at the intangibles of being a great quarterback and what we talk about, what it's supposed to look like, there's a process to it, but they have to truly understand what it takes to be a great quarterback. They've got to love the responsibility of playing quarterback. Because a lot of people love they want the responsibility to be the head coach, the responsibility to be the CEO, or all these titles. But do you truly understand what it takes?
Most don't.
Yeah,
Most
most
don't.
don't. Most don't. And so you have to map it out for them a little bit. And
Yeah.
and I love that part of my job probably more than anything. Good.
It's valuable to be able to be that mentor, but to receive it as a young person, because it's going to shape your entire life. And leadership styles, it's interesting. And I'd be interested. I'm going to ask you a question. And after you answer it, as long as short as you like, I'm going to tell you a short story about my last guest on the podcast. And we spent a lot of time talking about leadership. How many leadership styles does Riley Dodge have?
Ooh.
It's not a test, by the way. And there's no wrong answer.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say probably, I wear a lot of different hats.
Yeah.
I think leadership looks a lot different with the different rooms you're in. For me, it's my leadership. I guess my skill set or my tool belt probably looks a little bit different with a 15, 18-year-old kid than it does with a grown man that's on my staff.
Yeah.
And so I think a great leader, I don't know if necessarily this answers your question, but a great leader has got to be someone that's pretty self-aware.
Yeah.
They've got to be able to adapt.
Yep.
To the different rooms. And I think for me, in the roles I've been in, throughout my career, specifically let's just call it the last 5 years, as a head football coach, as athletic coordinator, and then into an athletic director. From the community to the kids to talking to principals, superintendents, to my staff, I think leadership is very. You got to be able to change on the fly, but you also got to be able to understand how to talk to people. And so,
well,
I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. And you know what? You're way ahead of me, buddy, because it took me a long time to really understand the empathy part and the dynamic nature of people, the rooms and things alike. I was very blessed. I grew up around great communicators. My grandfather, an immigrant from Italy, he broke in English, but he could speak to anyone, anywhere, anytime. Growing up in New York in this giant melting pot, my dad, great communicator out in the business world, was I always say he was a white collar guy with a blue collar heart, because he loved his cars and he found himself a job on Saturdays working on cars at a service station just because so he can do what he loves to do. But I had on my 100th episode coming out this Monday is with a Major General 2-star retired Matt Smith, who's now also leads the executive MBA program at Emory.
Wow.
4 veterans, I should say, 4 veterans seeking to get back and elevate themselves in the workforce. And we talked a lot about leadership. And he said to me, how many leadership styles do you have? And I said, well, how many do I have now? How many did I have when I first got my first, leadership role? He goes, I already know you passed the test. That's what he said to me. You evolve. He said, for almost every human, you have to have some nuance of your leadership style that's different, just because people are different. And I said, funny story. I have 3 kids. They're all amazing. They're all very different. And I used to say to a very good friend of mine, I can't even believe what's going on here. I raised the kids exactly the same. They all turned out different. Some listen to me, some don't, this and that. And he looked at me and said, dummy, they're all different. And I said, well, where were you 30 years ago?
Yeah.
And that's what you just described to me. You've got to read the room. You're reading people. You're meeting them where they need to be met in a certain circumstance. But you've got this foundation, I'm sure, of values and work ethic and empathy and the things that come along. And all of those things play in. I guess we talked about it early on. These are the table stakes. But that ability to read the room is super important. You got a ton of great influence from your dad. And the fact that you talk about it so fondly and have this great appreciation for it is amazing. And I am sure if you wrote out a letter to him and listed all the great things and all the great lessons he gave you, this list would be a mile long. What did you have to learn on your
own? To be myself.
Yeah.
Well, I think the probably the number one thing is you know, I've always, in the state of Texas, football is king. And,
Yeah.
I've been very blessed my dad has done a lot of amazing things as a player and as a coach. And then obviously being Ebby Neptune's grandson as well brings other different pressures and stuff like that. So, but I loved being his son. I loved being his grandson. I loved all the things that came with it. But at the same time, Joey McGuire, who's the head coach of Texas Tech, when I got the job, in 2018, I was 29 years old, never been a head coach before. I was ready for the opportunity, but I knew there was going to be some growing pains. There's things that I thought I knew, but I didn't know. And,
Okay. Love it.
But I had to work through those things. But I think he told me, he said, Riley, be Riley Dodge. Don't be someone that you're not. Because people, when you walk in the door and you're trying to be someone that you're not, people can sniff that out pretty
Big
quickly.
time. Instantly.
I took a lot from my dad, but I'm, like you said earlier about your kids, they're all different. My kids, I got 4, they're all different. And that's a struggle. But I think too, it's like, I'm different than my dad in a lot of different ways. But I do have a lot of amazing traits from him that I've really tried to, as a coach, X's and O's, all those things. But I made sure early that that I was comfortable in my own skin, that I wasn't afraid to be different. And I think probably the thing that shocked people the most when I first got the job here was like, man, he's having a lot of fun. He's like running around a lot. He's chest bumping kids. He's got a lot of,
yeah.
But that's just who I am.
He's 29 now too.
He's 29.
Can't see Hal Lawson chest bumping somebody.
Yeah,
no offense
young.
to Hal, but you know, you understand.
Yeah. But he's young and he's got a little juice about him. But I wanted to make sure that I wasn't feeling stiff and, trying to be Mr. Cool head coach. And, I wanted to go have fun with my football players.
Yeah, that's super cool. How do you define mental toughness? Like if you were sitting in a room and somebody said to you, hey, we got to get these guys mental toughness. And you said, hey, that's not, let's unpack that. What do you really mean by that? When people talk about the mental toughness in the game, how do you define it and where does it come from?
Yeah, I think it's pretty broad. We talk about mental toughness as being the same person each and every day, which is easier said than done.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably one of the tougher things to do. I don't care what your title is and what you do in life, but to bring your very best each and every day, to make sure that you're impacting people in the hallways, because people are going to remember. They're not going to necessarily always remember the wins and losses, but they're going to remember how you treated them and how you made them feel. But I think that's tough. Being physically and mentally tough in the classroom, being physically and mentally tough in the locker room, in the field house, or in the weight room, and then but trying to wear those different hats, but bringing your very best each and every day is a tough task. But the ones that truly understand it, man, they're going to be super successful in life. I think that. I always used to think mental toughness was like being just a tough guy on the field, like always being available for your team. And that's a part of it, and pushing through things that are uncomfortable. But I think also a part of mental toughness and sustained mental toughness is someone that's able to show up to work or show up for their family when things aren't advantageous for them.
Yeah.
And when you're not having a great day, how do you put that behind you? Because there's also a lot of other people that are counting on you. For me, in my own journey of building sort of mental resiliency and being authentic and all of the things that you point out, it's been I think it's a journey for most, if not everybody, but self-regulation has been like the cornerstone of my mental toughness, because you are, as a leader, you're thrusted into situations they're exploding right in front of you. And what seems like a year, you have milliseconds to process and then make the right decision. Yeah. And there's a practice. Like when I work with people at like quick to fly off the handle, they're very emotional, or they're pretending pressure doesn't exist, and they're in this little cocoon, which is just as bad, by the way. When I'm coaching those people, I start them with something easy. I'm like, hey, let's choose email as an example. You get an email, you're pissed off, right? And on the field, I'm sure you don't have this luxury, but practice and working through this is going to be there.
you get an email and it makes you irate. What's the first thing you want to do? You want to jam out a response to it that's just, steel on steel, right? Put it in your outbox. Sit it there for 24 hours. Sit it there for an hour. Sit it there for a period of time. I guarantee you when the emotion passes, you're going to reprocess it and you're going to say, thank you, Lord Jesus, I did not send that response. That's not my best. So you talked about showing up with your best. You're not, because of the lack of self-regulation, you're not positioned to be your best. And you work that backwards to real time. And as you work that back, it's like, 135, another plate on each side, 225, right? 315. Like it's that. It's reps. That's how it's done. And in its art form, these things, you have milliseconds literally to process it. I want to share a family story with you if you allow me to. I was in the Northeast. We have a lot of family in the Northeast, and I was with my family, and we were at my wife's aunt's house years and years and years ago. And the kids went outside and it had snowed, and they were throwing snowballs at each other and having fun. And just as we were getting ready to leave, I walk out of the aunt's house to like commotion at the curb. There's a guy out of the car. He's yelling at one of my wife's cousins, a grown woman with children, right? And he's in her face. So I go down there and go, hey, what's going on here? And he is irate. Evidently, as he drove by, the kids threw some snowballs at his car. He didn't like it. His wife was driving. He was having a bad day otherwise. And at this point now, as I'm sort of getting in the middle and diffusing, my family comes out and they're watching this from afar. And I say to the guy, hey, is there any damage to the car? Because if there is, I'd like to take care of it. I said, are you guys safe? Are you guys okay? It's Christmas. Like, let's see if we can get through. These kids are animals. You should, he couldn't help himself. His wife gets out of the car, comes around the back. I thought she was going to attack me, and she attacks her husband. Oh, this guy's a jerk. I can't even believe it. He's apologizing to you. She's on Team Vic now. I can't even believe it. So here's where it happens. As she gets in the car, he's staring me down, Riley, and he says to me, go ahead, say something. And I just sit there like this. And he said, I didn't think so. And he drove away. We got in the car. And at the time, my oldest was probably 12. And she was livid. She said to me, I can't believe that you let somebody talk to you like that. Why did you take that from him? Blah, blah, blah. And I said, hey, at some point in your life, you're going to realize that was a magical moment. I said, you know what I had to think about that minute? I said, this is what you'll realize when you're a parent. I said, at that moment, you have to put pride and ego completely to the side. And you have to say to yourself, what matters most and why? What outcome do I want? Right. And in process, and I had milliseconds to process this. And because I said, Taylor, what if I responded to him and he jumps out of the car and we start getting physical? Who wins in that? Nobody. But maybe to where something happens and he gets severely hurt. I'm in trouble with the police. Maybe I get severely hurt and now I can't make a living for my family anymore. And I had to think that at that moment, what was most important was him driving away, me never seeing him ever again in my life, which I haven't, and going off safe to where we had to get to and just letting that guy blow off steam and do whatever he has to do. Pride, ego, what's important and why, what you want. And so this self-regulation is something that is so key to mental toughness. And being able to manage those moments, I've got to bet. And as I still watch it, you watch the NFL, you watch college ball and, adrenaline's pumping and, and dopamine's at an all-time high and like things happen and people get these faces. And it's like some of the players, like the real stars are not emotionless, but they can self-regulate in my observation better than most. Good. What's your observation here?
Yeah, that's really good. It's kind of funny you brought that up because I think this is an area where I want to grow, to be honest with you, Vic. I talk about with coaches, with administrators, leaders in our kids, a self-aware individual is a dangerous individual. Someone that's not aware of their downfalls, that's when they get in trouble, right? They just can't look themselves in the mirror and identify like, man, these are areas I got to improve in. But someone that understands like who they are and who they're not, that individual more times than not is going to be okay. But I will tell you this, an area I've got to grow in is I think in nature, I just want to be a fixer. Like I want to fix problems, boom, like immediately, like when the adversity hits, I want to push solve problem button now. How do we get to this? Even when tensions might be high, I want to solve problems. But what I have learned, and then I am learning right now, is that sometimes, you're going to have problems that arise. You're going to have things that need to be solved. But a lot of times those problems cannot be solved in that moment. And it's kind of like when you're talking about that email. I can respond to this email right now, but the tone of this response is not going to be great. I can put it in my outbox. Let's give it 24 hours. I'm going to have a different perspective. And then I can respond when I have some clarity, right? And I think that's an area that I've got to improve in, because I've got to get out of the mold that like not every issue can be solved at that moment, and then doesn't deserve to be solved at that moment. And that's something that it's funny you bring that up, because that's something that I've been really processing lately, especially hopping into a new role at SMU, and I'm excited about that growth. And I think if you're in a mindset of like I'm a finished product, then you're not trying to to grow. And so then that's an area definitely that I've got to improve in.
Riley, it's a blessing and a curse. I've got a few decades on you, at the least here. And what I could tell you is that, when I hear you talk, I feel like I'm playing a tape of myself back often, not with football skills, but with mindset skills. First of all, I'm here to tell you that a couple decades later, you're still going to say the same thing about yourself. You're going to say, I got to grow, I got to tweak, I got to be more self-aware, I got to do these things. It is a wonderful journey. Yeah. It's an amazing journey. It never ends, because life changes, you change, situations change. But you're really able, these are the skills. I have a friend who's an executive coach, and he's a results coach. He worked for Tony Robbins for 10 years, and he went off and started his own company. He does stuff in the corporate world. So through him, we get to talk about these topics, sometimes 3 hours at a shot, multiple times a week. My wife's like, you're on the phone, Tony, again? It's 10 o'clock at night. Like, I'm like, we're good. It's good. And so these things need to be pushed back out, even outside of sports. People who play sports in an amazing program with great coaching, like we have here in Southlake Carroll, through you or the people before you, even people, Munn right after you, are going to get the benefit of people who have these skills at least at a very good level, if not at an elite level. And the kids in these programs are going to build this resiliency. But kids that aren't competing in something, at first I was hearing you talk, and I said to myself, everybody should be forced to play sports because the lessons that come through sports. And then I said, well, that wouldn't be fair. There aren't kids who are athletically have an athletic mindset. What is it really about sports? It's competition. What is it about competition? It's losing. It's losing that builds the character, and what you do with that and how you move forward through that. So I would love to see these programs, and I don't, I'm not tight to the curriculum in Southlake, but I know as my kids went through it, the last one graduated in 2001, outside of anybody who did sports or, whether it be cheerleading or football or whatever they were doing, there wasn't really a program on sort of developing this mindset. Am I unaware of a program specifically for that, or is it just coming through athletics and other competitive means?
Yeah, I think you've nailed it. I think it's the athletic, it's the arena. I talk about it all the time, with our football players, like it's the arena alive, but you've heard of the man in the arena.
Of course.
And
the doer of deeds.
The doer deeds. Yeah. And I always challenge people, like, if you put yourself in the arena each and every day, each and every moment, when there's going to be two things that can happen. You're going to come out victorious, or there's going to be failure. But if you just continue to show up, right, that builds character. Yeah. But there's a lot of people alive that are scared of the arena. because they don't want to put themselves in those vulnerable positions.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk to parents all the time. I think as sports have changed, like there's a lot of just doing things by themselves, or I'm just going to focus on this one thing. Well, when any opportunity I get to get in front of parents and we're talking about athletics, like, man, please have your kids do everything they possibly can at a young age. So as they get older, they might trim it down. They might say, hey, I'm just going to do this. Well, in Southlake, Texas, we have a 9-10 center that's a high school. We have an 11-12 center that's a senior high. But when they come from our 2 middle schools, I want them to treat their freshman year like it's a super 8th grade year.
Yep.
Like it's a bonus year. Don't cut yourself short. Put yourself in uncomfortable positions, but play everything. Play everything, because sports, which you can learn a lot. If like I just say I'm a football player, well, I played football, baseball, basketball, and ran track.
Yeah.
All 4 of those things brought different value to my life, not just as an athlete, but I got to learn how to, as a basketball player, as a point guard, lead different types of guys than I did in the football locker room. Or in track, like track's a vulnerable sport.
Big
like
time.
Either you're gonna win or lose, and
It's you.
If you win, it's you. If you lose, it's you. There's no like pointing the finger, and so you learn different things. But a lot of people are scared. Let's just call it track. So a lot of people are scared of track because everybody's watching you win or lose, right? And so I think the more you can put yourself in those different arenas, then the different life lessons you're going to learn. But sports, anybody you talk to that has played and grown up playing whatever they're passionate about, gosh, that brings so much value to them later in life and how they're able to lead, because you learn how to, win with being humble through wins, and how you handle losses and adversity. And, it's so invaluable.
For parents who are not athletes or don't have an athletic mindset, the life lessons that come, I mean, there is no mental toughness 101 course in a high school. And maybe if you're taking some psych courses in college, you may get into some of this resiliency, but not in the way I've been trained on it, and not in the way sort of the coaches. I've had Robin's coaches. I've had other coaches in my life, many, many, many mentors, always invested in myself and my growth. I'm still doing it. As I said, I'm decades older than you, but it's this appetite for this beautiful mind that we were given, and this heart and soul that we get to develop and become. And I'll tell you, if you start out empathetic, you'll end empathetic. If you don't start out empathetic, you can still end empathetic. And I'll tell you, understanding and having empathy and putting yourself in other people's shoes is the key to that difference in these leadership styles. And so early on, when you talked about reading the room and doing these things, that comes back. It's huge. I wanted to say, for parents listening, like, get your kids involved in something where there's competition. I will tell you, the thing I'm still working on is learning how to be a parent of older children. I'm doing much better than I ever have, but you want to get underneath them and put the safety net under them. You're a parent. That's what you're supposed to do. Let them fall on their keister.
Yeah.
Because there is a lesson there, and, steer them away, put the guardrails up so they're not, driving off a cliff, or they're not getting involved in drugs and things like that, no matter how old they are. But they have to build their own resiliency. You can't build resiliency for them. You can't do it. And I've got a married daughter who's 30. Great. She's off. Amazing husband. My son started his own business, 28, social media, content creation, editing and stuff. And he's freelance and has his own clients. And my youngest, who is also a graduate of UNT, started out at U, didn't like the scene up there, came down, stayed at home, went to UNT, graduated a business degree, graduated and said, I'm going to start my own business. And she has a salon suite up here in Southlake, and she's trying to grow a business and a lifestyle from it. But we'll see where she goes. Compete. You've got to compete. You've got to fail. And let me tell you, and you'll see where I'm going to dovetail this. I pulled up some stats, and I want you to check me on these, please, because I know you're closer to them than I am. 7% of high school athletes nationwide, and this includes NCAA Divisions 1, 2, and 3, of high school students will play at the college level. Sound about right to you?
Sounds about right.
All right. So 7 out of 100 people in a program in high school will play at the college level. Breakdown by level, 1 to 2% of them will play at the D1 level, right? Very elite level. And when you include NCAA Divisions 1, 2, and 3, the number rises to about 6 to 8%. The context here is that these are the places that your kids are going to get all of these lessons and all of this value that we talked about here. I was at I think it was still called the Touchdown Club, at one of the Timuron breakfasts one morning.
Yep. Breakfast Club.
Man, it slapped me clean across the face. It was probably my first one at the Breakfast Club, where you spent a considerable amount of time talking about not only winning and what the opposing team was up to and who you were looking at, but really the value of all the other people on the team. And you focused a lot on not these specific stats, but what they were going to get from football. And I think at the high school level, and probably even at the college level for certain, because people's aspirations, what they make college, obviously try to get into the NFL. But how much do coaches, I guess that's the question. Thank you for letting me work this out in my mind. How, I know in high school, you're focused on trying to get as many kids as you can to have opportunities in college. And you want to win. Like, I get it. We all want to win. But 7 out of 100 will make it. How much emphasis goes on the 93? What do you talk about in the coaches' meetings, in the admin meetings? Like, how do you manage through that?
Yeah, I think it's everything. I think that's why we've had so much success. Obviously, you have good football players that, I tell people all the time, like, coaches, we're the educators. We lead them to the water. But at the end of the day, when the light bulbs turn on, the man in the arena, like the players win games, right? Coaches are there to help direct. Now, when it comes to the locker room and the organization and the health of the organization, if you only focus on, let's call it the 7%, right, you're not going to be very successful as an organization. There's so many different things that we do in our program, I think, that help us with the culture in the locker room, the health of our locker room. We call it family groups. And so in season, we do it every Thursday. And so a lot of times coaches miss, and I'm guilty too of this throughout my career, but what I've learned in my 8 years at Southlake Carroll is the character development of young men, right? Is trying to give them nuggets each and every week, each and every day, something that they can hold on to. And so I'll back it up a little bit. So I have a coach on my staff that's in charge of family groups. And so he will come to me on a Sunday when we're kind of done wrapping the day up. I'm like, hey, this is kind of what I'm thinking. What do you think about the message for this week? And we'll kind of talk it out. I'm like, all right, what coach is going to be giving this message this week? And it'll be like, Coach so-and-so. So on Thursdays, we get the entire program. The freshmen are a different campus, but they do the same thing with our freshman staff. And so the coach will get up for about 10 to 15 minutes, and he'll give, he's essentially giving a sermon over a topic that we thought we need to hit this with the kids. Once he gets done talking, we split up into our family groups. And so the family groups consist of about 15, 18 kids with a coach. The coach is there just to make sure the conversation stays on the road a little bit, but the players are leading the conversation. Inside that conversation, they have 3 to 4 questions that they're going to be asking the rest of their peers. So while we're doing this, we're building communication skills. We're building leadership. We're giving kids voices to talk, which is difficult to talk nowadays. Yeah. As a 15, 18-year-old young man, because sometimes that's not cool to do, and we're trying to make it cool. But I've my dad preached this early in my life, and as a coach, I heard him say this a lot to his coach staff: make sure you're focused on the bottom 10% of your roster. But the bottom 10% of your roster will win you championships. Amazing. And there's absolutely right. And so I've always focused the bottom 10% of your roster. We have so many kids in our program that are program kids that just love being a part of the program, but serve our football program in so many amazing ways, from family groups to a TAC team, which is our scout team, but we call them a TAC team. And we praise our TAC team players. So there's just a lot of, we even created this past year, we called it the Juice Squad on the sidelines.
Okay.
And so it's a group, we had a juice captain on the sideline. So he had a towel.
A title.
And he was on the sideline.
That's great.
A towel. And it was a decked out towel that said juice on it. And so our strength and conditioning coordinator, Doug Castleberry, he captained it for us. But it was just another layer to our program, another layer to bringing value to kids in the locker room. And so it's so crucial to our success. It's so crucial to the success of our coaching staff as well. Because I try to be self-deprecating too to our kids a little bit. It's understanding like us as grown men. I'm talking about us as a coaching staff. I got 17 assistants. Like all of our roles are different.
Yeah.
You know, like these guys, when y'all leave, are mopping the floors or cleaning this and that, and like we do some, you know, unpopular jobs, but if whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to be the very best at it. And so to explain to kids that maybe I'm not playing every down, maybe I'm not getting opportunities on the field. There's a lot of men that are serving you right now as a 15, 18-year-old that maybe not be satisfied in their role, but man, they're doing it with a smile on their face and they're doing it to the very best of their ability. So I think it's crucial to the success of any organization that you make sure that you focus on every soul.
That's amazing. I love that. Riley, I want to wrap up with a little bit of a lightning round. And I didn't send these questions over to you purposely. Take your time. You know, we can go at whatever pace you like here. And if something's top of mind, let it rip. And if it's not, and if you want to move on, we can go to another question. So I'll clean all this up. What do most parents misunderstand about pressure and young athletes?
It's louder than people think. I think it depends on where you're at. Mm-hmm. You know, the different, there's pressure in Southlake, Texas. And man, we really try to break it down for kids and help them understand that if you do these things, then we're going to have success. And I think it's okay to talk about pressure with young men. Don't hide from it. But also, I think with parents, and me being a parent, is talk to your son about it, but also allowing them to be kids, and allow them to enjoy their childhood.
You know, this goes beyond athletes too. I think social media has created the greatest amount of pressure on kids in human history.
Mm-hmm.
There's no escape. They're always under the spotlight. They're always engaged in one thing or the next. That we can do an entire episode on it. And I love social media. I think there's a time, a place, and a purpose, but it's not without its unintended consequences.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a moment in your career that you think tested your mental toughness more than any win ever validated it?
Yeah.
Let it rip.
I was the backup quarterback at I was the starting quarterback at University of North Texas playing for my dad. And I'd gotten injured early in the season and got back healthy, but the starting quarterback who'd taken over for me was playing well. And so I went from the starting quarterback to start the year to the backup quarterback, and we're at Army at West Point. And I didn't prepare the right way that week. I wasn't a great teammate. I was kind of floating, zero urgency about what I was doing because I wasn't going to play. Right, that was kind of my mentality. Well, the starting quarterback gets hurt in the first series of the game, and here I come, unprepared, not dialed in, and it was an amazing wake up moment for me as a person, not just as a football player, but as a person. I just remember we lost that game at West Point. It was a close game. I did not play well, and I get on the plane. I had to look every person in our organization as I'm walking down the aisle in the eyes. I didn't want to. I had my chin down. I knew that. And they knew that I wasn't ready for the moment. Mm-hmm. And I told myself at a young age that would never happen again. right? No matter what my role is if it's the head football coach, if it's supposed to clean up the weight room before I turn the lights off, whatever I do, I'm going to do it to the very best of my ability. I'm always going to be prepared
It's
for
amazing.
everybody around me. And so I think that goes with my husband, or for my wife and for my kids. Like, if I'm not prepared, right, it just shows there's people that are counting on me, and I got to be ready to show up.
It's awesome. Here's my second to last question. If somebody's physically injured, you can spot that a mile away. They're limping, the shoulders drop, you can see that. But when somebody is suffering or struggling mentally, in or off the field, in or out of the game, what do you look for before you even say a word to that person?
Well, I think the first thing you see is, obviously, like you said, there's their body language.
Yeah.
I think the next thing that I ask is, how can I help? How can I serve you? Getting to that point where it's like hands are open, and try to be in a vulnerable state where that individual will open up to you.
That's
And
huge.
sometimes that person may not open up immediately, and it's not about being pushy, but it's just about being there for that person, and showing up and allowing them to know that, hey, I really value you and I value what you're going through. I don't know what you're going through, but I'm here to help if need be. And I think that's a part of an amazing leader. That's someone that values not necessarily the outcome of this person's job, but like what they're going through on a day-to-day basis. And that's how you really truly connect and get the most out of your people.
Fantastic. And my last thing is, you are now the new tight ends coach and passing game coordinator for the SMU Mustangs out here in Dallas, Texas. Congratulations on that next road and on the long journey that you're going to have ahead of you. What are you doing to participate, prepare? Do you have to think about this differently? What's the difference between coaching at the high school level and being in charge of everything to, having a very specific laser focused role sort of in the next level of play?
Yeah, I think I feel like I've always done a decent job of being where my feet are at. I've always just been very prayerful about opportunities and what's right for myself and my family. The SMU opportunity came about, and there's always moments. I've always seen SMU, and really specifically Rhett Lashley, from afar. I was like, there's something special about him as a leader, and then what he's got going on over there.
Yeah.
There's like, I kind of want to be a part of that if ever given the opportunity.
Yeah.
Obviously, the opportunity present itself, and so I'm very excited about that. I'm excited, Vic, to be honest with you, to reset in different ways. Like, now I'm an assistant. I'm not the head coach. I'm not making the schedule, right? And so it's to be a soldier again, and to roll my sleeves up and serve the head coach, serve the rest of the coaching staff around me in the best way I possibly can. And then I got a small room now of guys that I'm responsible for in the tight end room, and I've got to go find a way to go pour into these young men. And the age group has changed, but I think at the end of the day, ball is ball and coaching is coaching. We're in a relationship business.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we're in a relationship business. That's why I love doing what I do, and I get an opportunity to be around some amazing men that I'm excited to be around these guys and to be grown by them, and then also to get to pour into this tight end room, into our locker room at SMU. So just different colors, different hat I'm wearing now, but I'm excited about the challenge.
The town went into mourning when it was announced, obviously. You've been a staple of the community, still are, actually, But when it happened, my first response was, no. And then my second response under self-regulation was, of course, because I saw you as a competitor, as a leader. And even before this conversation, I knew you were personal growth minded. And so if I sort of mirrored what you've done in sports to sort of my approach to my career, you want to be with the big kids. You want to be somewhere where you can grow. This town would have had you for the next 30 years. Let's just call it what it is. And you could have cruised. I know you weren't cruising there and just showing up and still doing it and growing, but you could have been ahead of this program and the athletic director. I think this town would have had you for 30 years. or more. Putting yourself out there, putting yourself in another area to laser focus, to grow, to become a better Riley, and not only a better coach, but a better husband, father, et cetera, son. I mean, all of this is going to come from that. So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
On taking this leap. I've gone from CIO jobs to the second or third in command, and I've only grown through those experiences. I've gotten better.
Yeah.
I've gotten better every single time. So congratulations to you, to your family. Thank you so much for sharing your hour and 12 minutes with me today. I've been trying to put this together for the longest time, and I was very mindful of the football schedule, by the way. Like, I'm not texting this guy and through the playoffs, only a dummy would do that. And so when the new year kicked around and you were transitioning, I reached back out, and as God put it in front of us, you were available immediately. And so I took the opportunity, jumped on it. So thank you so much. Have an amazing rest of the day, but good luck to you. Congratulations. God bless you for a successful next chapter in your journey here at SMU. I know you're going to be super valuable to that program.
I appreciate it, Vic, and love everything you're doing. And just thank you so much for your support.
Appreciate it. Oh, one last thing. Self-regulation will save you penalties.
There's no doubt.
All right. Self-regulation is going to put yards back on the field. So that's my football advice. That's the only bit of football advice.
I'm writing that down.
All right, buddy. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Vic.
Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.